Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game7 Team Selection and we need to discuss the very big news that there has been a cancellation in Game Week 8. We now have a blank Game Week and as a result it's actually pushed my wildcard forward to Game Week 8. So we're going to discuss all of that today, but if you are enjoying the content here on this channel and you get some use out of today's video, please do drop a like, make sure to subscribe as well. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers and I would love to hit that before the Game Week 7 deadline. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So I'm recording this late on Wednesday evening, ready for a Thursday morning release for you guys, and there have been three pieces of massive news today. The first, of course, being that Thomas Tuchel has been sacked as Chelsea manager, which I know you will already know if you're watching this video, so that's a massive piece of news. The second being that due to Thomas Tuchel being sacked, Graham Potter looks like the favoured manager to be taking over from. Now, at the time of recording, I don't know if that's definitely happening, but by all accounts, most of the journalists that are in the know at Chelsea and also at Brighton have suggested that this looks fairly likely to happen, and I think talks will be taking place on Thursday. If it's not Potter, it's Pochettino. But assuming Potter does take over, that obviously massively influences how we view Chelsea and Brighton assets moving forward. But that's not really what I need to discuss here. What I need to discuss here is that there has been a cancellation or postponement in Game Week 8. So if you've not yet seen this, Brighton versus Crystal Palace has been postponed due to the rail strikes on the Saturday, meaning that a lot of fans can't travel and there'll be issues with parking as well. So due to that, it has been postponed and it will not be rescheduled to another date in Game Week 8. Now, having listened to Planet FPL James and also listening to Ben Crillin over on Twitter, it looks fairly likely that this will not be before the World Cup. So there's a small chance that it gets rearranged before the World Cup, but it looks more likely it'll be rearranged after the World Cup, so in the new year, in 2023. And as a result, later on in the year, after Game Week 17-18, we're going to have a double game week for both Brighton and Crystal Palace. So we've got all of that to look forward to. But what this means is for those managers such as myself who are looking to wildcard in Game Week 9 and have triple Brighton, because again, it would have been triple Brighton against Palace, which wouldn't have been the end of the world, maybe we look to shift our wildcard 1 week forward. And at the time of recording this, that is my current plan. So I was looking at having Game Week 8 as one final punt, moving a few players around, wildcarding in Game Week 9. But due to this issue, due to the fact I've got triple Brighton, I've got Sanchez with Ward on the bench, who I don't want to play. I've also obviously got my Liverpool assets against Chelsea. I've got Harrison against Manchester United. The team is now looking extremely weak for Game Week 8. And I do think there are some exciting one-week punts or some exciting punts that you can take that look good in Game Week 8. For example, the likes of Isak against Bournemouth, the likes of Mitrovic against Nottingham Forest, the likes of Rashford against Leeds or Spurs assets against Leicester. I think it is quite an exciting week to wildcard. I do still just about prefer Game Week 9. So I think if you don't have that many Brighton assets, maybe you only have like a Pascal Gross, or you have like a Pascal Gross and a Dunk, but maybe you can like bench Dunk and transfer out Pascal Gross. I think if you can get around not wildcarding in 8, I do still prefer Game Week 9 as a wildcard week. However, due to my specific situation, which we'll discuss at the end, I'm now about 90% sure I'm going to be wildcarding in Game Week 8. So if you're excited for wildcard Game Week 8 content and all that content next week, do make sure to subscribe. I am going to show you at the end of this video my current Game Week 8 wildcard draft. And the reason I wanted to discuss this now is it does influence how we view Game Week 7. Because if we're sure we're going to wildcard in Game Week 8, which I'm going to decide before the Game Week 7 deadline, it means we can maybe take like a 1 week punt in Game Week 7 and we don't need to carry this team forward. So with all that being said, let me know down below what your initial reaction to this. Are you going to move your wildcard a little bit earlier? Are you going to try and get through Game Week 8 with transfers? But with all that being said, let's now look at my Game Week 7 team and then my Game Week 8 wildcard draft. So I'm going to do this slightly differently today because I think the big talking point at the moment is, am I going to wildcard in Game Week 8? And if I am, what is my wildcard going to look like? Rather than necessarily my team in Game Week 7. Because to be honest, my team in Game Week 7 is very well set up. There seems to be a bit of a misconception over on Twitter and a few people getting it wrong. The Brighton game this week is going ahead. And even if they do lose Potter, which looks, like I said, fairly likely, it is still a good fixture. And I'm still happy playing Gross and Sanchez. And my team looks really well set up. So regardless of whether I plan to wildcard in 8 or 9, I probably don't have a massive amount to do with my team this week. So just to really quickly talk through it, I've got Sanchez in goal against Bournemouth. I think that's absolutely fine. I'm currently recording this towards the end of the Liverpool game. In the final section, we're going to have a proper chat about Trent, Salah, Diaz, and what on earth is going on at Liverpool. I've got it on next to me. It's currently 4-1, 77 minutes gone. So by all accounts, a terrible, terrible performance from Liverpool again, from Salah and Trent. Luis Diaz looks like the only Liverpool player that's got any energy, urgency, and passion. So maybe Diaz is the one to hold if you're going to hold a Liverpool asset. But I am still happy holding those three against Wolves. I don't think it would make much sense to sell them before Wolves. But when we're looking at a Game Week 8 or a Game Week 9 wildcard, I could be going with as little as one Liverpool asset, potentially none. Looking at how they're performing at the moment, There is absolutely no justification to keep them apart from just saying that in the past they've had some good data and in the past they've been good assets. You've got the most expensive defender in the game in Trent, and you've got the most expensive player and midfielder in the game in Salah, and it just doesn't make sense to keep them whilst they're performing like this. And with the fixtures that they've got coming up, maybe we don't. But we'll discuss that more in the final section. For this week against Wolves, I'm happy keeping my triple Liverpool against Wolves. I've got Trippier in the starting 11 at the moment. Ideally, I'd like to play Estepinian, but I just don't know if he's going to be in the starting 11. And it also spreads the risk a little bit. I don't know if I want to back double Brighton defence with everything up in the air. Even if Potter doesn't go to Chelsea, whatever happens with Potter, maybe this isn't the week to back Brighton too heavily. So at the moment, I've got Trippier ahead of Estepinian, and I'm playing Cancelo. And Cancelo looked so much better at right back. If you did watch the Champions League game for Man City, so much more attacking, getting into such good positions, getting assists. He just looked really good. And with Walker potentially looking like he's going to be out a little bit longer term, or at least probably against Tottenham, you'd assume maybe Cancelo plays right back again. There's a small chance he plays left back. They can play someone else at right back. But if he is at right back, he just looks like a much better asset. So I'm happy holding him. And the midfield looks really nice this week. Again, you might say that double Liverpool against Wolves isn't great. But outside of that, Harrison against Nottingham Forest looks good. I did discuss this earlier on in the week. Harrison was brought off due to fatigue and also due to a tactical change in Game Week 6. So yes, he was brought off at half time, which isn't ideal. But apparently he just looked a bit tired and he's going to have a full week to rest now. And also they wanted to go to 2 strikers. So that's why they brought on Bamford to go alongside Gelhardt. So with all of that being said, I think Harrison should probably be starting, and I feel fairly comfortable starting him against Forest as a result. We've got Martinelli against Everton. We are going to discuss whether it's worth keeping Arsenal assets on a Game Week 8 wildcard, but for now, it looks like a really nice fixture. Yes, Everton have actually improved recently, but I have seen something today which looks like Pickford's going to be injured for a few weeks, so they've got no Pickford, and they are still a defence to target, I think, and it's at home as well. So I'm very happy having Martinelli, and as a result, I'm very happy having Gabriel Jesus as well. The final one is Pascal Gross. Again, I'm not particularly keen on backing Brighton too heavily at the moment, but considering I'll probably wildcard them out in Game Week 8, due to the fact that they're blanking and also due to the fixtures they've got coming up, I'm going to give Pascal Gross one last go, and he has looked fantastic over the opening 6 game weeks, which leaves the final player being Haaland, who currently has my armband. He's just unbelievable. I said this last season with Salah. When a player is this good, and they're in that good of form, and they've got that good data, and they're passing the eye test, when a player looks as good as Haaland does at the moment, I need to see something incredible from someone else for me to back against them. I don't think this is a great fixture. I don't back Haaland to score 3 or 4 goals against Tottenham. I'd probably guess maybe 1 or 2 returns. But at the moment, like I said, I would need to see something from someone else that would make me think I'm confident they'll outscore Haaland, which I'm just not at the moment. So he will continue to get my armband for the foreseeable future. I'm not saying it's permanent captain all season. Maybe we'll change it up. Maybe once the Champions League comes a little bit thicker and faster, maybe we start to mix it up if Haaland gets a couple of rests in the Prem. But for now, he doesn't look like he's going to be rested at any point. I doubt he'll be rested against Tottenham. He come off early, got another little rest. He's going to be my captain for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, I do like changing my captaincy up, but not at the moment, I don't think. And then the bench, like I said, currently got Estepinian on the bench. Currently got Williams against Leeds. So it is a relatively strong bench. And then Stansfield should be red flagged on here because he has obviously moved to Exeter. He's no longer in the Premier League. So much quicker than usual that I've flown through that. The reason is because, like I said, I'm currently planning to wildcard in Game Week 8. So I actually only have this team for 1 more week. So I don't really need to discuss these players too long term, because I'm probably going to move them on next week. So the big decision comes if I do wildcard in Game Week 8, which I haven't fully decided. Like I said, I'm about 90% sure I am going to wildcard in Game Week 8. If I do, what 1 week punt would you guys take, right? So I've got 0.6 million in the bank. If I'm going to wildcard next week, it's just a 1 week punt. Who would you take out and why? The thing that's worth noting is if I have money tied up in any of these players, I don't want to take them out if I think I'm going to end up bringing them back in. So for example, like I wouldn't take them out anyway, but Martinelli or a Trippier, maybe not worth taking out of my team because I actually have money tied up in them. I bought them at a cheaper price. So if I sell them and want to buy them back on my Game Week 8 wildcard, I'd actually lose value on them. The only thing that I can see myself maybe doing, but again, it just doesn't feel like a particularly optimal play, is maybe selling Estepinian for another defender and starting that defender ahead of Trippier. So I wouldn't sell Trippier, but I would start another defender ahead of him. But I looked at all of the 1 week punts that I could take on a defence, and the only one that slightly interests me is maybe Zinchenko. So I could go Zinchenko against Everton at home, maybe a slightly better fixture than West Ham away. So Estepinian to Zinchenko, bench Trippier, play Zinchenko. It feels okay, but again, do I want to bench Trippier at the moment? Not particularly. So I might end up burning a transfer. I've only got 1 free transfer, but of course, if I wildcard next week, I lose the transfer that I've rolled. So I might make no moves anyway, but if you do see something that you think that's a really nice way to attack it, like, for example, Harrison to someone, if you think there's a slightly better option, if you think there's an aggressive attacking move, do let me know down below. with all of that being said, all this build-up, we're now going to move over to Fantasy Football Hub and also official FPL site. Take a look at how my team currently looks for Game Week 8, why I'm planning on wildcarding, and then take a look at my wildcard draft. So just very briefly before I show you my Game Week 8 wildcard, what I'm going to do is just show you what my team looks like for Game Week 8 and why I myself am currently leaning towards the wildcard. The reason for doing that is obviously to justify why I'm currently planning, but I've also got a lot of messages. I've got 2 Brighton assets. Do I play the wildcard in Game Week 8 or can I wait? I've got this situation. What do I do here? I can't obviously cover every situation, but if I explain my situation and why I'm leaning toward it, maybe it will start to help you try and make your decision. Again, I can't cover every situation for every single person. You've just got to make a judgment call yourself. So the site that I'm currently using is Fantasy Football Hub. As you can see directly above it, for as little as £2.10 per month, you can get access to pretty much every single feature over at Fantasy Football Hub. That is points predictions, fixture ticker, Opta statistics, team reveals from top managers. There are so many price changes. There are so many features for as little as £2.10 per month. There is a link in the description. It'll be the first link in the description. You get 30% off using my link, so do check that out. The reason I love it, though, is if I just use the buttons, you can see you can just skip ahead to future game weeks, and it really allows you to plan out not only transfers, but also when you're building your wildcard team, you can start to think a little bit about how your wildcard might look for future weeks, which we'll get onto soon. So this is the way my team would go into Game Week 8. Let's assume that I roll the transfer in Game Week 7 and I don't wildcard in Game Week 8. I'd go into Game Week 8 with this team and I'd have 2 free transfers, right, to attack it. And then I would be wildcarding Game Week 9 anyway. So the question then becomes, can I salvage this team in Game Week 8? Can I make it a reasonable team with 2 transfers to the extent that it would be worth saving the wildcard for 1 more week? So it's almost that weighing up, right? My major issue that I've got is I have triple Brighton. So I have Sanchez, Estepinian, and Gross. The thing is, Estepinian might not have played anyway. So I have that I might have benched Estepinian anyway. I had the option because he's not necessarily starting. It depends on what happens with Potter, of course. That is a while away, the Game Week 8 deadline. But let's say I would have benched him anyway. I've really, therefore, if I just scroll down, because you can't see them, they're on the bench at the moment. I've just got Sanchez and Gross to deal with. I could bench Sanchez and play Ward, which I do not want to do. So I've then got the option of I have to probably use one of my free transfers on my goalkeeper or just accept probably a 0 or -1. I think they're going to get absolutely battered by Spurs there. So maybe let's say a 1-pointer or a 0-pointer from Ward. So I've basically got no goalkeeper. But then I have other issues in my team. If Liverpool don't improve, I've got Salah, Trent, and Diaz against Chelsea. The other issue I've got is I've got Harrison against Manchester United. You could say, do you know what, Leeds could score against United, and they well could. But then I've also got Nico Williams against Fulham. Do I think Forest will keep a clean sheet against Fulham? Absolutely not. Fulham look really good at the moment, and I desperately want Mitrovic. So when I actually look at my team, I've got triple Brighton, who aren't playing. I've got triple Liverpool against Chelsea. I've got Williams when I think he'll concede. I've got Ward against Tottenham. And I don't have Isak, Tony, Mitrovic. There are other good options this week who have completely escaped my mind. But there are much better options, I think, in Game Week 8. And the likes of an Isak, Tony, Mitrovic, whoever I want in defence. I want Reece James back, obviously not for this specific week. A lot of them actually have decent fixtures, not only this week in Game Week 8, but also beyond. And when I actually compare a Game Week 8 wildcard to a Game Week 9 wildcard, because I've done that, and I think that's absolutely critical, you compare your Game Week 8 wildcard to your Game Week 9 wildcard, they're not too dissimilar. The only major difference between a Game Week 8 wildcard and a Game Week 9 wildcard is probably Arsenal assets. So the thing is, if I were to wildcard in Game Week 9, I'd be very tempted to drop most of my Arsenal assets. The reason for that is they've got Tottenham, Liverpool, Leeds, City. So in the 4 games post Game Week 9 wildcard, they've got 3 really tricky fixtures. The thing is, they've got Brentford in Game Week 8. So if you're wildcarding in Game Week 8, it maybe feels slightly too early to drop all of your Arsenal assets because that's a decent fixture there, and they could really hurt you because they've still got quite high ownership. So it's, do you drop your Arsenal assets a week too early, or do you wildcard with Arsenal assets that you might want to end up selling? That's probably the major difference between a Game Week 8 and a Game Week 9 wildcard. But generally, I just think my team's too weak for Game Week 8. Let me know down below what you think. If your team's in a significantly better position, for example, let's talk FPL. I've just watched his video earlier. His team's actually pretty decent for Game Week 8. I don't think he probably needs to wildcard. I think if your team's in a situation where you look at it and your team's looking pretty good, I would genuinely try and wait till Game Week 9. I do think it's a better week. I think you've got the international break. You can respond to potential injuries. You've got a lot longer to plan your wildcard there. And you can also look at the mistakes that we make in Game Week 8. Because inevitably, myself included, managers will make mistakes in Game Week 8. And if you can sometimes wait a week after where the majority wildcard, that can be beneficial. So if you're watching this and your team's not bad for Game Week 8, have a look at it. I'd maybe try and wait. But I'm looking at a Game Week 8 wildcard. So without further ado, let's look at what I'm currently thinking for my structure and certain players too. So guys, in this final section, I'm going to show you my Game Week 8 wildcard, and we're going to have a bit of a chat around it. But this is useful if you're wildcarding in 7, 8, 9, or if you've already wildcarded, or even if you're waiting to play your wildcard, maybe game week 13 or something like that. Because what I'm going to basically talk about is the players that we should be targeting over the coming weeks and what I think the general landscape in FPL will look like. I'm live on the site, so we're going to be almost like live tinkering and talking about different combinations. This will be more like a live stream and it won't be as professional maybe as my videos normally are. So we're just going to have a bit of a chat about the wildcard for game week 8. So if you guys do like this sort of live tinkering at the end of the videos, let me know. I think a couple of you do, and I think we're going to start to bring it back in now that we're getting into the season a little bit. So as you can see, wait for my justification before commenting whether you hate or love the wildcard. I have got 1.6 million in the bank. That isn't because I can't spend it. That is for a very specific reason, which we will discuss when we get onto it. So starting in goal, we've currently got Nick Pope. Now, the reason for having Nick Pope is Newcastle are a fantastic defence, right? You don't need me to tell you that. They're defending very well this season. They defended very well last season. Eddie Howe has just got a very tight ship at the back for Newcastle. So I think it's definitely worth tapping into the Newcastle defence. And also the fixtures are great. Bournemouth, Fulham and Brentford in the 3 weeks post-game week 8 wildcard. Then they've got a couple of sort of trickier fixtures dotted in. But Everton, Villa, Southampton outside that. And then remember, in game week 16, between 16 and 17, so we call it a game week 17, when there's the World Cup, we're going to have unlimited transfers. So is this run here, it looks really nice for a Newcastle defender or two. Also, very interesting, I think this is a really cool stat to look at. Newcastle have one of the lowest XGs per shot conceded in the Premier League. What that essentially means is they're conceding a lot of shots that aren't big chances. So they're conceding shots from all over the place, from outside the box. That is perfect for Nick Pope. It means he's going to make a lot of saves, but he's not very likely to concede because they're not big chances. It's the perfect recipe for FPL. And that's why at the moment we're seeing him get these like 12 pointers and 10 pointers. Because when he gets a clean sheet, he's probably going to make at least 3 saves, then get bonus points. And we've seen it before when he played for Burnley. Nick Pope is great for that. So I think it might be worth paying the extra for Nick Pope. The goalkeeper that I am currently interested in, if I don't go for Nick Pope, is actually Gaeta. Now, the reason is Crystal Palace, again, alongside the likes of Brighton and Newcastle, they're a fantastic defence. And again, really nice fixtures up until that sort of game week 16, game week 17. So I would quite like Gaeta for that reason. So if I can't afford Pope, or if maybe I don't want to double up on the Newcastle defence, I am definitely considering Gaeta at the moment because I do have, at the moment, Trippier in there as well. And I think when you've got Trippier in there and Pope and you don't have any Crystal Palace defenders, maybe you can almost like spread the risk a little bit or maybe try and cover 2 clean sheets. And I do kind of want a Crystal Palace defender. So maybe it could be like a Pope and a Gehi or a Pope and an Anderson, or it could be a Trippier and a Gaeta. At the moment, I've actually gone for double Newcastle defence, but that definitely isn't set in the stone there. I've currently got Williams in. I don't really want to keep Williams. I don't think the fixtures are great. And I never want to play Williams is the issue, even when the fixtures are nice, just because I don't think Forest will ever keep a clean sheet. I know they have the ability to, it just doesn't ever feel like they're going to, right? So I don't want him in there, but I want to leave this money in the bank to make some potential moves in game week 9 and game week 10. So that's why at the moment I've got Williams, because what I would really like in that Williams spot is I want Fofana. If Potter does go to Chelsea, or whoever goes to Chelsea, I expect them to mix things up, but I expect Fofana to start regardless. And for 4.4 million, getting Fofana in for this run of fixtures, it just feels like ridiculous value in that Chelsea defence. But it leaves me a little bit short on the moves that I want to make in game week 9 and game week 10. So at the moment, Williams stays in. And then I've currently got Trent, Cancelo and James. James is going to definitely be in there for me. His underlying data is far too good. I don't care if the Chelsea defence hasn't been great. They've sacked their manager now. And even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, I know it's a bit of a cliche saying, you almost don't need the clean sheet with Reece James. He's that attacking. With Fofana there now, he's going to be playing at right wing back on a regular basis. Maybe the new manager switches to a back 4. If the new manager does switch to a back 4, it maybe makes him less appealing. But I just think that James is too good at 6 million. And like I say, 6 million, it's cheaper than Cancelo. It's cheaper than Trent Robertson. For me, Reece James has got to be in there. Cancelo, the reason he's in there still is because I just don't like any of the other City options, right? I don't think Walker, obviously Walker's injured anyway, but I don't think he's nailed now anyway. Gomez looks decent. Stones is on and off injuries. Same with Ake. Could go for Diaz, but he's only £1 million cheaper. I just don't like, and I don't want Ederson because he doesn't make many saves. So for now, I want to cover the City clean sheet because when you look at the City fixtures, they're fantastic, right? But for now, I think Cancelo is going to have to stay for that reason. And then the final one is Trent. After tonight, I may well drop Trent. I genuinely mean that. And that's the first time I've ever said that and really meant it. The reason is the fixtures are actually really rough. Chelsea, Arsenal and City in the 4 weeks following when we're wildcarding in game week 8. Could you drop Trent and bring him back for this run here? Nottingham Forest, Leeds, Southampton? Maybe. Could you drop him till game... The thing is with Trent, he's still a fantastic attacker. He's still putting up really good data. And if Liverpool do turn it back on, you're going to want him back in immediately regardless of fixtures. And I just feel like I don't know where I would spend that money, because what I did a minute ago before I made this video is I jumped and made another draft, and I took the money out of that Trent position and I brought Fofana into where Trent is. I didn't really want to spend the money. So I'm thinking if I don't need the money right now, just go for Trent and hope that he turns it on. And if he doesn't, maybe then move him out. I know it's like, how long do you give him? But I don't even know if it might be a fit. It might be a fear thing. Genuinely, it might be a fear of what he can do. But I also just think that I don't see any other alternatives at the moment that I'd want to spend money on. So for the time being, Trent stays. But I know if you're going to give me stick in the comments, I don't really blame you. Maybe it feels like a little bit of a passive move. But for now, Trent stays. Let's go to Salah, I suppose, whilst we're on Liverpool. I don't particularly want Salah on my Gameweek 8 wildcard, and I may well not have Salah on my Gameweek 8 wildcard. The issue that I've got with Salah is the same as with Trent. Who on earth do you go for? I don't want De Bruyne particularly. I don't think the fixtures are that great for City. I don't necessarily think I'm that confident that he outscores Salah. Son just looks a shadow of the man he once was, and even if he does turn it on again, the fixtures aren't perfect. It's a decent one in Gameweek 8. I don't necessarily believe in Son that much. Sterling, hit and miss. What's he going to be like under Potter or Pochettino? Again, I don't know there. Bruno Fernandes could be a decent punt, but do I trust Bruno over Salah? Not really. And then if you say spread the funds, like what on earth do I spread the funds on? I don't need the funds. So I'm at this awkward position where I'm keeping Salah because I don't really want anyone else. The only one that I would be tempted by is Kane. My issue with Kane is that I want about 8 or 9 other strikers that are all a lot cheaper. So I don't want to drop one of the cheaper strikers that I think will be great value for Kane just for the sake of selling Salah. So at the moment, that's why Salah and Trent stay in, is because they're just genuinely, I don't see the viable alternatives. But if you do think that they should be sold, please let me know down below if you're still watching. I've then got 2 cheaper options. I've got Andreas and I've got Bailey. The reason for that is I think they both represent really nice value, and the fixtures are fantastic for both of them. So look at this run here. Remember, we're wildcarding around there. So the final 2 aren't great for Andreas, but he'd be a bench option most weeks. But when I do want to rotate him in, he'll be absolutely fantastic. So, for example, I've got Reece James and Trent and Salah, right? Maybe I don't want to play all of them in Gameweek 8. I've got Andreas against Nottingham Forest. So he's great in those times where maybe you don't want to play some of your other players, or if you do need your bench, Andreas is just going to be a class shout, right? So I've got Andreas there for that reason. And I've got a similar thing with Bailey. He's now had 2 starts in a row, playing 90 minutes in both. He's looking really good. And I think, fingers crossed, finally Gerrard has started to realise you've got to play this guy. He's been absolutely fantastic every time he's played. And the fixtures coming up, the next 3, they're ridiculous. Southampton, Leeds and Forest. Then Chelsea. But again, he's going to be a bench option a lot of weeks. Then Fulham and Brentford. You could start him in a lot of them. And genuinely, I've looked ahead to future weeks. There are a lot of weeks where I'm planning on probably playing Leon Bailey. So I just think those 2 represent such good value. And because I really like the forwards at the moment, I don't mind playing like a 4-3-3 a lot of the weeks, or a 3-4-3 with one of Bailey and Andreas playing. I have got Marcus Rashford. Let's go to Marcus Rashford next. The reason for that is it's a good fixture against Leeds in Gameweek 8, and I just feel like that's a nice punt to take on the wildcard. He then has Everton in Gameweek 10, so if I'd want to bench him in Gameweek 9, I can. But the main reason that I've currently left this money in the bank, 1.6 million, is because I want Zaha and or Maddison in from Gameweek 9 and beyond. And I like the fact that if I leave 1.6, I can go from Rashford to Maddison, or I can go from Martinelli to Zaha or Rashford to Zaha, right? So I can't do Martinelli to Maddison, but I can do Martinelli to Zaha or Rashford to either of them. So I've got that option in there, and that's the reason I've left the 1.6, and that's the reason I'm currently happy taking a punt on Rashford, because if we have a look at Maddison, hopefully you guys like this sort of more laid-back approach. I don't know how long this section is going to be. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter. But if we look at Maddison, he's got Tottenham in Gameweek 8, which I don't really want, but then he's got Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, Wolves. It's a really nice run. I'm probably going to want Maddison in there. So I'm thinking in Gameweek 9, when Maddison has Forest, like, I just do that. I've got 0.2, so fingers crossed I won't be priced out of that. If I am priced out of it, maybe I'll have to think, maybe I'll go for Gaeta instead of Pope. Like, if by the time I wildcard, I think I'm going to be priced out of that move, I'll go from Pope to Gaeta, and that will leave me even more money in the bank. But for now, that's why at the moment, Rashford's in there. And at the moment, I've still got Martinelli. The reason for it is, like I said, I sort of want to just cover this game here. I don't want to completely drop Jesus and Martinelli. And the other reason is I've got a lot of money tied up in Martinelli, right? We bought him at 6 million. He's up to 6.5 now. So I can sell him for 6.2, but if I want to buy him back again, I've got to pay 6.5. And I've got a feeling I might want him for this run here. So just because there aren't that many alternatives at that price that I like short and long term, I've just got Martinelli in there for 1 week. But again, I could make, rather than the Maddison move, I could quite easily do, again, I don't have quite enough to do Martinelli to Maddison in this setup. But what I could do is Martinelli to Zaha, because from Gameweek 8, he's got Brighton, Chelsea, Leeds, Leicester, Wolves. Ignore Leicester being like a red fixture, by the way, because Brighton, Chelsea, Leeds, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Southampton. It's a really nice run there. So maybe I would want Zaha at this point. So the option's there to do that. But let's put Martinelli back in. Then we could just finally move on to the front three. Haaland is going to be staying for obvious reasons. I don't need to discuss that. Mitrovic is a fairly obvious one again. This is just such a nice run. And one of the best things about wildcarding in Game Week 8 is I get Mitrovic for Nottingham Forest. And I think that is a really tasty fixture to play him in. It's one of the reasons I don't want to play Williams. I'm very confident in Mitrovic for this fixture. And even if he doesn't perform in this fixture, I'd start him in every week right up until Game Week 15. And to be honest, if he's in the form he's in now, I could even start him against City and start him against Manchester United too. The final option in this team is a tricky one. Because I think, again, if you watch my Game Week preview video, I talked about all of the best strikers in the game at the moment. Isak's a great option. Tony is still a great option. If we look at Brentford's fixtures, I don't think they're as great as Newcastle's, maybe. Midfielders. Why am I midfielders? Go to the forwards. If we look at their fixtures, they're decent enough. So we've got Southampton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Brighton. They're not a bad run of fixtures. And then when you get here, you've got Villa, Wolves, Nottingham Forest. So you could hold Tony right through until the unlimited transfers around the World Cup. So I don't mind Tony for that reason. Again, 7.2 million. And the other option I really do like is Solanke at 5.7. Now, that is cheap, and that would give me a lot of money. I could even start with a Maddison or start with a Zaha on this wildcard. And again, fixtures are unbelievable for Brighton. So there's some good options. I just quite fancy a punt on Isak. Specifically, obviously, it's a great fixture against Bournemouth at home. Fulham, Brentford, United, Everton. It's a nice run, and he's just looked really, really good. My issue is, it feels like he's going to keep picking up little niggles and injuries. I am slightly worried about that. I don't actually know what his injury record's like, but that's just the vibe that I get early on. Also, we don't know how Wilson coming back when he eventually does will impact Isak, so it might be a slightly shorter term move. I feel like it's the slightly riskier play. I feel like a Tony or a Solanke will be a slightly safer play for both minutes and just due to the fact that they've obviously been playing in their sides for a while now. But I feel like Isak's quite an exciting one. And again, that Bournemouth home fixture, to have triple Newcastle against Bournemouth and to have Mitrovic and Andreas against Forest, I feel like the team's really nicely set up for Game Week 8. So that's the current wildcard. I'm sure there will be players that I've completely forgotten about or ignored that aren't currently in here. Please let me know down below what you would change on it. Again, you don't have to leave any money in the bank. You could just, rather than going for Rashford or Martinelli, you could just start with one of Zaha or Maddison. But I don't particularly like the fixtures for either. I mean, Zaha plays against United. He does actually quite like playing against Manchester United, so you could start with him. Maddison against Tottenham. Again, Tottenham have been conceding goals, so maybe you just start with Maddison. But I just feel like this is a good balance of leaving myself flexible with 1.6 in the bank, covering most of the good players, and really attacking Game Week 8 and beyond. Because the team still looks good for Game Week 9, 10, 11, etc. and beyond. And it's a really nicely set up wildcard. So that is the current wildcard draft. That's why I'm currently playing on wildcarding. Like I said, please let me know down below what your reaction to all of this is. Are you wildcarding? If so, what does it look like? What week are you doing it in? And yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be an exciting week of content next week. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 7 team selection video with a lot of discussion around a Game Week 8 wildcard, because I think it's just such an important point to talk about at the moment, because it will affect how we approach Game Week 7 and of course beyond as well. I have just realised I'm going to have to get rid of Tuchel in the background there, because he has indeed been sacked. Maybe replace him with Graham Potter or maybe Pochettino, whoever comes in for Chelsea. If you have enjoyed today's video, enjoyed the slightly different style to it, and you're enjoying the content in general, like I said, please do subscribe. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers, which would be a great milestone to hit. And please do drop a like. We're continuing to smash 1,000 likes in every video, so please do drop a like if this video isn't yet at 1,000 likes. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.